Now I welcome the first speaker, Mr. A.J. Wilcox from USA. Mr. A.J. Wilcox is a LinkedIn ads pro who founded B2Link.com, a LinkedIn ad-specific advertising agency in 2014. These newly minted LinkedIn official partners manage among the world's most sophisticated accounts worldwide. He is a ginger and triathlete. He speaks with, train, present and manage advertising campaigns for executives and teams around the world. Mr. A.J. Wilcox, you can start your presentation, sir.
I'm going to be talking to you about LinkedIn advertising today, and I want to share a little bit of a story with you about a time that I went to go consult with a larger technology company and ended up sending a whole bunch of Google AdWords leads to the sales team. Then I went for a correlation meeting with this sales team to understand how it was that they were working with these leads and how it was going. And the sales team gave me two pieces of feedback. They said, number one, thank you, these leads are hot. And it's because those leads are actively searching you out, so of course they're going to be ready to buy. But number two, they say, but we're talking to the CEOs, and we're talking to the proverbial janitor, and we're talking to everyone else in between. Is there a way that you can send us leads that are only people who are those of authority to buy? Maybe those who are manager, director, VP, and C-level folks. And the real magic behind that is with search campaigns you cannot, but with social campaigns you can. My absolute favorite lead qualification model is called BANT, and it stands for budget, authority, need, and timing. And the concept behind this is that any sort of lead that comes in, you can grade it according to certain criteria. So in this case, AdWords leads are going to score really high in need and timing, because if someone didn't need it, they wouldn't be searching for it, and if the timing weren't right, they wouldn't be searching for it right now. Sorry about that. So I want to make sure that your dollars are spent on someone who has the right leads for you. And maybe the best type of lead for your sales team is something that will close tomorrow, that you're going to be working with people who are actively searching you out. But in the case of this technology company I was working with, what they needed were the right people who could buy their software. So a little bit about me. As you said in the intro, I'm a ginger, as you can see. I'm a redhead, and we have a joke here in the United States that people who have red hair have no soul. So I always think that's funny. I don't look like it, but I'm a triathlete. I love endurance sports, and I also love exotic cars. So if anyone wants to have a chat after this about Ferraris, I'm all for it. Also, I've been doing digital marketing for about the last 10 years and really fell in love with LinkedIn ads about 5.5 years ago. I live in the state of Utah in the United States with my wife and 4 children. Okay, so with business to business, we have 2 inherent obstacles that make business to business much harder to do as marketing professionals. Number 1, we have all of our conversion events after the initial form fill are all offline conversion events. That means we get someone to fill out a lead form, and then by the time sales follows up with that lead, they are talking to them over the phone, over email, and heaven forbid, sometimes over a fax machine. So these are things that there is not a pixel firing in that case, and we have to be able to understand and import data from a CRM in order to understand what's happening to our leads. And then second of all, we have these delayed sales cycles where you might generate a lead today that won't close for 3 months, 6 months. In enterprise, it's not uncommon to see deals not close for a year to a year and a half, maybe even 2 years. But I want to tell you that even though business to business is really not sexy, we don't sit around the dinner table at night and talk about different business to business companies. If you look at the USA's Fortune 1000 companies, 72% of those are B2B. And so what I want to share with you is there is a lot of money in B2B, and it's a great place to move with your career. Okay, here's this slide talking about pipeline marketing. And this is the concept of not all leads are created equal. Some leads are going to come in and just be called a lead, while others can go directly to a marketing qualified lead, and then they have to graduate down to sales accepted leads and opportunities into finally when they become a customer. And so what I want to express to you is if you look at all of your leads just by the metric cost per lead or cost per form fill, your different channels will tell a very different story than if you can follow it all the way down the funnel to revenue. Okay, so when you're in business to business, you've got a few options in social media. You can look at Twitter, you can look at Facebook, and you can look at LinkedIn, and all of them have different pros and cons. Twitter, for instance, is the weakest of all of the targeting around business to business targeting, but it's also a really low cost. Facebook has a little bit better. You can target by things like job title and company size and company industry, also at a low cost, but it's still not perfect. Whereas you have LinkedIn, who has by far the best B2B targeting, but unfortunately the cost is very high. It's very expensive to advertise on LinkedIn. The pros here, we as users keep our LinkedIn profiles up to date, and that means that we are very rarely targeting people with wasted impressions who are not a good fit for our company. I've talked about the targeting, but I'll go into a little bit more detail here in a bit. It's one of my favorite parts about LinkedIn advertising. Also, when someone is on LinkedIn, they're either thinking about their work or their career. And so when you give them an offer that augments one of those two things, you tend to have really high conversion rates. I have here, there's no gatekeeper with LinkedIn advertising. That means if you're showing ads to a CEO, the person that you're going to be emailing with and get on the phone is the CEO. It's very, very rare when a business leader will actually hand the keys and their credentials for their LinkedIn account over to someone else. Whereas quite often, they will pawn their email accounts and Twitter accounts off to an administrative assistant. And then finally, of all of the studies I've done showing all the different channels next to each other, in companies where there were upsells that were possible, LinkedIn by far closes the largest deal sizes. Now, LinkedIn ads is definitely not all sunshine and rainbows. Here in the United States, we generally pay somewhere between about $6 and $9 per click. So it's many times more expensive than Facebook and on par with AdWords in some industries, higher in others, lower in others. Have the ability to bid by device. So you have to make sure that if you're using one of these ad units that's very heavily mobile, you need to make sure that your landing page has a really good mobile experience. Otherwise, it will perform terribly. Day parting is this of being able to advertise only during business hours or only Monday through Friday, only when the sales team is in the office. LinkedIn can't do this natively. You have to use a third-party tool to do this. I have mentioned here no video ads. Video ads are actually in pilot currently, and so somewhere near the first of the year we'll probably have access to video ads. But for right now, you probably want to go to Facebook and YouTube for video ads. And also no exposed relevancy score. For those of you who are familiar with Facebook ads, you'll know relevance score. For those of you familiar with AdWords, you'll know quality score. And LinkedIn has a very similar type of metric, and it's not exposed to you. You can't see how yours is doing. Okay, so because of those pros and cons, who is a good fit for LinkedIn advertising? Well, I will tell you, a business-to-business lead gen marketer who has a high lifetime value. Now, what we've called here in the United States as high lifetime value is over about $15,000. So if you're going to make $15,000 or more from a deal over that lifetime, then LinkedIn ads is an absolute no-brainer. You want to use it. If you're much under that, it could be an issue. Okay, and in white-collar recruiting, LinkedIn ads works. Okay, white-collar recruiting of almost any kind works great on LinkedIn ads. And then finally, recruiting for higher education, because LinkedIn's targeting around your education, where you went to school, what degree you got, what you studied, is all excellent. Okay, what I want to get through to you is the idea of when you are thinking about LinkedIn ads, you need to think of it like a sniper rifle and not like a shotgun. From this example you can see here where the sniper rifle is on the left and it represents a single precise point. They're precise, they're expensive, these are the highest value target, and you imagine that every shot counts. Whereas on the shotgun approach, you think about things being imprecise, cheap, high volume, and this phrase called spray and pray, which is like throw it out there and hope that it works. So think of Facebook ads as your shotgun approach and sniper rifle being LinkedIn ads. Okay, I want to show you how you can see what LinkedIn ads actually look like. So on the right rail, the right side of a lot of your different pages, you'll see these text ads. Not always, but sometimes. And these have been around since 2008. And what I want you to remember about text ads is that they have really, really low click-through rates. The example here is if you get a 0.03% click-through rate, you're doing great. And to put that in perspective, that's 3 people clicking out of every 10,000 who see the ad. So that is very, very low for click-through rates. It's hard to drive a lot of traffic from a small audience here. The nice thing is, though, all of your traffic is going to come from desktop computers, so you can not worry about your mobile experience as much. Then you have sponsored content, and this is by far my favorite ad unit. It appears in your news feed with a lot more real estate. And the average click-through rate here, if you're getting a 0.4% click-through rate, you're doing great. So you can see that's 11 to 12 times more engagement on these ads. It means you can actually drive volume from a smaller audience size. Keep in mind from this ad unit that 70+% of people who come in through this ad are going to come from a mobile device. So be ready for that. Okay, finally we have the third ad unit that you can get access to right now if you go sign up for a LinkedIn Ads account, and it's called Sponsored In-Mail. As opposed to the other ad units that we just talked about that are you only pay when someone clicks, Sponsored In-Mail, you pay per send. So you're going to pay 35 to 85 cents here in the United States. It's probably much less competition elsewhere. You're going to pay that to send it with no guarantee that someone's going to click on it, let alone open it or even see that it exists. One really awesome thing about this ad unit is that there's a 2-month frequency cap. That means when you send this ad to one of your prospects, they are ineligible to receive another one of these ads for a full 2 months. So your ad is going to sit there in their inbox. Okay, now let's talk about my favorite part, the targeting. You can target by people's job titles, what department they sit in, which is called job function, their level of seniority, skills they have listed in their profile, groups they're members of, their education, their demographics, information about their company, how large the company is. You can target by individual company name, industry even, and all of these things with combinations and exclusions. So it's very, very powerful. My recommendation is whenever you're talking about how to reach a prospect on LinkedIn, think of them in 2 dimensions. The first dimension is going to be the individual. What's their job title? What groups are they have? What department do they sit in? And that can be your understanding of the person. And then you have the organization itself. What's the company name? What size is the company? If you're going after enterprises, you say 5,000 employees and above, or 10,000 employees and above. And finally, you can look by industry. When you combine these 2 things, it's going to be the most powerful. I get asked a lot of times about what do I actually share on LinkedIn when I have an audience. What do I show them? Well, here's this funnel where I'm showing what types of content can be organized by how much friction they are to a potential user. So there's very, very little friction. It's low friction if you just send someone to a blog post. So something ungated, and that's great. The problem with this on LinkedIn is that if you're going to be paying $6 to $9 for a click, it's really difficult to justify a return on investment by sending that expensive of a traffic to your, sorry, I'm going to raise the volume here, to something that does not a call to action. Okay, and I'll try to talk louder too because I have my volume all the way up. And then finally, on the other end, you have something like a trial or a demo. You're asking someone for hopping on the phone with you or talking to your sales team.
Thank you
This is
so
really
much,
high friction.
Mr.
It requires
AJ
a lot of
Wilcox.